Hello, Joe Roney here with another video documentation on my propulsion system development. I saw a video on YouTube by a guy named Steve D. Gage. On November 21st, 2012, Steve D. Gage posted a YouTube video describing the Evoligram, a symbol he extrapolated from Kirchhoff's Enneagram, which shows the three forces of propulsion: the active, neutralizing, and passive. He goes on to describe how this concept can actually be achieved using a series of 8 weights, 4 rotating in one direction, while the other 4 rotate in the opposite. The weights extend and retract in accordance to their position in rotation. The weight always extends in the same direction, the direction you want to go. Essentially, we're manipulating the centrifugal force to weigh heaviest on one side, and trying to cancel it out on the other sides. Also worth mentioning is the animated diagram he shows by his friend Rick R. Dobson, who understood the same principles, although his arrangements of weights and parts were quite different, as you can see. But Rick R. Dobson allegedly built a working model, which levitated. After watching Steve's video a few times, it finally clicked with me and I felt I had a full conceptual understanding of it. Since then, I've been interested in using this method to develop a means of propulsion. Here's one of my first attempts, which I made from an erector set. Not exactly the brand erector. This is EI Tech, probably an erector knockoff. We've got screws gliding across this metal surface, and it does not glide well. It jams up constantly. But you can see what this is supposed to do. I think it would be ideal if the arms are together right next to each other as close as possible, so that you don't get this wobbling effect that I think you'll get from this, which is, you know, we're protruding here, so it wants to go up that way. We're protruding here now, so it wants to go up that way. You know, wobble, 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 wobble. Anyway, I can't test any of that with this one because it won't spin fast enough. I made this center lever so that I could rotate it, but it just can't. It jams constantly. So this model, I kind of gave up on using that medium. And I have another video out on YouTube where I'm working on this model with my son. It was constructed a little bit differently in that video. I've had to rebuild this thing twice, but same concept. And it uses a lever to have the arm protrude the farthest at the top, equal on the sides, and then retracting at the bottom. It's easier to see that in this demo because you can really see that lever changing the position of the arm. But this model also made one thing very clear to me, which is that we have a different wobbling problem, and these arms are, in relation to the size of this thing anyway, these arms are closer to each other. But when you're in this position, this is supposed to be the neutral position for this front arm going across. It's neutral because these are out an equal distance, but look at that. No, they're not. And I realized that that's because I'm using a lever. This lever is an aspect of it which I had to rebuild many times, particularly because I was trying to get it right. It wasn't too hard to get it to be able to reach all the way down to here, retracting this end as much as possible while still being able to extend it as much as possible. But no matter what I did, the neutral positions where they're supposed to be equal were not neutral. It was always sticking out farther at the end that didn't have the lever joint. So I evaluated this on the computer. This red line is essentially the path that I'm trying to guide the arms along. Down here you see that it's retracted and up here it's extended. What I was trying to do basically was achieve this path by 2 circles. We have the circular motion of the arms going around their pivotal point here, and then we have the circle that the lever moves around to pull the arms in and out, or extend and retract them. So you have an arm, let's just say that's going from here to here in the upward position, and then when it comes down to here, it's supposed to have these arms even, and then down here, it's retracted. But in reality, that doesn't work. We're going to end up with this. The green here represents the sliding arm, and it's in its upward position, so it's extending out at the top and retracting at the bottom. And then when it rotates, it pulls it down here, and we can see it's poking out over on this side and coming in on this side. We don't want that. When it gets to the bottom, it's ideal, you know, it's retracting here, extending here. But now when we get over to this side, it's coming in over here. So we have these 2 ends where it's going to be going back and forth, creating a wobbling effect. So I think a better method will be to somehow fabricate a guide in my Evoligram shape and put it here as a disc, and then put wheels on this that can be guided by the disc. The wheel will have to roll up to this top point of the Evoligram shape, and then when it comes down here, it's going to have to come to the neutral positions, rolling down into place. And then underneath, the same thing, it'll roll into place down here, and that will be forced by the opposing side. They'll be kind of hugging this Evoligram shape. It hugs the guide, and then it has to conform to that shape. That's actually one of the first methods I thought of. And it's always been a bit hard for me to confront because I don't know what materials I would build that with. And it also seems like it would be hard to overcome all the friction you would probably get from it. Hence I tried the lever, which seemed a lot easier. Well, since I recorded all this previous footage, I realized you could use one lever per arm, as opposed to having one lever per arm pair. So I made this animated rendition using Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop, and it demonstrates some pretty interesting things. While this sort of rounded triangular shape may work, it's actually not what I've been trying to achieve. When we overlay all of the frames of the animated rendition, we can see that the path that the weights follow is not a triangular shape at all. It's more of a tall oval shape. So where the heck did I get a triangular shape then? Well, let's back up. Rather than using the seemingly more overwhelming methods of gearing or hydraulics to achieve this arrangement, I thought rolling the weights along a guide would be much easier. So I had to determine what shape that guide needed to be. If the arms were not protruding and retracting, then they would simply go around in a circular motion. So we can start with a circle. It seemed logical to me that I could simply move the top and the bottom of the circle upward, as that is the direction the weights are positioned. Hence this triangular shape, and I stopped there. But the curvature of the line is just as important as the position, and it affects the entire circle. On the neutralizing sides, the curve needs to reach toward the protruding weight more, and it needs to be angled out, as that reflects the weight reaching out as it gets toward the protruding position, and reaching back in as it gets toward the retracting position. Also as important, the retracted position needs to reach out less, and the protruding position needs to reach out more. The amount of reach on these curvatures may be representative of the speed at which the weights will be traveling at that point of the rotation, relative to the other parts of the rotation. This was not mathematically measured out, so it looks like a blob. But I think what we're looking at here is just a circle. We're still rotating the weights around a circle. We're just changing its central pivoting point. So fast forward back to where we are now. One important side note to make about this animated rendition is that it only has the forearms rotating in one direction. It isn't showing the forearms that need to rotate in the opposite direction. But I kept thinking back to what Steve D. Gage said in his video, which was that he and Rick R. Dobson agreed that gearing would be the best method. I kept trying to visualize how that would work, and then this idea dawned on me. But I'm saving this for my next video.